After World War I was ended on the 11th of November 1918, there was a period of chaos in post-war Germany. There were left-wing extremists and right-wing extremists, both striving for power. There was violence on the streets, there were coup attempts and secessions. And one of the secessions occurred here on the 21st of October 1923, the free and independent Rhenish Republic was proclaimed. If you want to know how that all took place, stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, I'm Stefan. I'm a history teacher hustling history for you. If you like this content, please consider subscribing. Do hit the notification bell to become part of the hustle. Let's start. After the First World War was over, the German Empire was no more. The German Kaiser Wilhelm II has abdicated and he went to exile in the Netherlands. Meanwhile, the Weimar Republic was established. During this time, there were extremists from the left and from the right. In January 1919, we had the Spartacist Uprisings, where communists tried to take power in Berlin. A few months later, the Bavarian Soviet Republic was proclaimed, only to be taken down a few months later. Also, there were communist uprisings in the Ruhr and in Hamburg. In 1920, the Kapp Putsch took place. It was a right-wing coup attempt, which also failed. The Weimar Republic was here to stay, yet it had many opponents. So let's take a look at the opponents in the Rhineland. The Rhineland is an area in the southwest of Germany, bordering France and the Benelux countries. Rhenish nationalism had sprung up since the times of Napoleon, when a short-lived Rhenish Republic, a client state of the French Empire, had existed. It only existed for 5 years. After its dissolvement, Rhenish nationalism remained. In the revolution year of 1848, the Rhenish nationalists fought against the Prussians, which they lost. And when the German states were united into the German Empire in 1871, led by the Prussians and the Prussian dynasty, the Hohenzollern dynasty, the Rhenish found themselves under Prussian rule. Anti-Prussian sentiments remained among the Rhenish nationalists. Flash forward to 1918. The First World War was over and Germany had lost, and the Rhineland became occupied by the Allies. So think of this, the Rhenish people were now under occupation because of a war the Prussians had started. So Rhenish nationalism surfaced again. Now do note here that they were not all on one side. There were different views among these Rhenish nationalists. Some of them envisioned an autonomous state within the Weimar Republic. Others perhaps wanted to join France, and others strived for an independent state. When, in 1919, the Treaty of Versailles was signed, Germany had to pay 132 billion gold marks as war reparations. The Weimar Republic came up with the idea to just print more money. The Allies, they had foreseen this trick and they only accepted hard currency, dollars or pounds. Now because of the printing of money, hyperinflation struck, and this is what happened in 1923. The money became worthless. Look at these pictures of billions and billions of Reichsmarks that weren't worth anything. On the 11th of January 1923, the occupation of the war started. See, the French, they wanted their reparations and they wanted it now. And when they found out that the Germans were deliberately holding back on timber and coal, they moved in their troops. The Belgians soon followed. The workers of the Ruhr, they went into a strike, and this was supported by the Weimar government in Berlin. And they used printed money to pay these workers that were on strike. Yet now hyperinflation totally struck. The German currency became worthless. It reached a point where you had to carry a wheelbarrow full of cash to buy a loaf of bread. Now with the German economy shattered, Rhenish nationalism was fueled. Why did the Rhenish people want to live in a country that had dragged them into a war, that because of the lost war now their territory had become occupied by a foreign power, and on top of that their economy was totally ruined. Now, one of the Rhenish nationalists was Konrad Adenauer. He was the future Chancellor of West Germany. He already led a meeting in 1919 discussing the matter of secession. Now, like mentioned before, within these Rhenish nationalists, there were opinions what to do with this case. Now, the idea of joining France seemed very unlikely because France had occupied most of the Rhineland. The idea of keeping inside Germany was out of the question, so therefore the Rhenish seceded, and on the 21st of October 1923 the free and independent Rhenish Republic was proclaimed. In front of the building you see behind me, Aachen was under Belgian occupation and the Belgians imposed martial law as violence between pro and anti-separatists broke out. The pro-separatists were reinforced with around 1,000 militiamen. In other cities a similar pattern occurred where separatists took over government buildings, after which leaflets were distributed to let the people know of the regime change. Now most of the Rhineland area was under French occupation. Now the French, they didn't stop these Rhenish nationalists. They even gave money to them. And why did they do that? Well, think of this. The French wanted to weaken Germany as much as possible. They already did a fairly good job in this, where Germany had to pay war reparations, cede over land and contracting the army. But if there will be a buffer state between Germany and France, that would also give France more security. The French occupational authority even financed the Rhenish Republic, and the capital city was changed from Aachen to Koblenz. The Rhenish Republic proved to be unable to function. Rhenish leaders Hans Adam Dorten and Joseph Friedrich Mattes had personal rivalries and couldn't work together. And at the same point, when the French occupation became too costly, French budget cuts had to be made, and the French flow of money towards the Rhenish nationalists stopped. And as a result of this, the Rhenish militiamen started to live off the land, and widespread plunder occurred. Rhenish civilians in the Siebengebirge, they anticipated on the violence, and they set up their own militia, led by a former German army commander. They collected pitchforks and old hunting rifles to defend themselves. It led to a confrontation with the Rhenish militias near the city of Bad Honnef. The Rhenish militias were ambushed and they were routed, but they soon came back with reinforcements and many civilians died. Also, other civilians in the area that resisted against the plunder were killed. More and more civilians tried to defend their property with violence. The French acknowledged the situation couldn't carry on like this, so they placed the whole area under military control. Also, some of the Rhenish nationalist leaders were arrested. The whole violence created huge divisions within the Rhenish government in Koblenz, and soon its leaders resigned and some of them went into exile. And with that, at the end of November 1924, the free and independent Rhenish Republic was no more. So if you want to know more about the French occupation of the world, you can click right here. If you want to support me, please go to my Patreon page, because with your donations I can make better, cooler and more awesome content for you. I want to thank you for watching. Do not forget to subscribe, and auf Wiedersehen.